This is Raythe from Raythe Reign. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 102, Wall of Death. The helicopter's blades spun up and the backwash of air nearly ripped open Valerius's robe. Not that it would have mattered. He and Caden were about to shift, so the robes would be shed in moments. But he had to see Celestine taken back to reach safely first. After speaking those same two words as Landry had, wall and death, she had fallen unconscious. None of the other Falcon shifters had returned to give them more information. He had not expected they would, because Celestine would not have left her people behind if they had been savable. Hopefully, it was not too late for her as well.
"We're going to do this together, Valerius,"
Caden said as he shielded his eyes from the downwards blast of the rotor blades.
"I'm going with you no matter what."
Valerius sighed. The desire to protect Caden was as strong as always, but the thought of leaving him behind only filled him with dread. He saw Raziel and Iolaire leaning against one another. They would not be parted either.
"I don't want you out of my sight,"
Valerius confessed. Caden's eyebrows rose and his lips parted slightly.
"I expected you to fight me on this after what's happened to Celestine and the other Falcon shifters."
Valerius cupped Caden's face.
"I want us to be by each other's sides from now on. That is the only way I will know you are safe. And vice versa."
Caden agreed, nodding before moving his head to the side to kiss Valerius's right palm. It was a feather-like kiss, but it burned as if tattooed upon his flesh. The throaty sound of the helicopter was now a faint chop-chop in the distance. Both of them gazed after it at the now small-looking craft as it headed for one of Reach's best hospitals.
"Do you think Celestine will be all right?" Caden asked.
Valerius saw him swallow deeply. Valerius did not know. Celestine had used all of her strength to report back to them, but he knew she was strong and had an iron will.
"I believe she will make it, if anyone can make it," Valerius said. "She didn't have any wounds on her, but she was bleeding out inside," Caden said with a shudder. "I mean, I'm no doctor, but that wasn't right."
Valerius nodded, agreeing with him.
"Perhaps poison."
The behemoth's many heads had various abilities. One of them could have very well gassed the Falcon shifters, causing such terrible damage.
"Alarian's poison breath can have similar properties," Valerius added.
If he hadn't known that Alarian was at high reach right now by Shione's side, he would have thought that the green dragon shifter was responsible for this. But from the battle that Raziel had shown them, it was clear that there were variations on the gifts that each of them had reflected in the other trapped dragons. He wondered what the behemoth itself could do. Were its abilities simply to entrap the other dragon spirits, or did it have other powers as well? Or maybe what had happened to Celestine was nothing like what he was thinking at all. Valerius took his cell phone out of his robe's pocket and called Shione back, but it was not his counselor that answered, but Tilly instead. "King Valerius!" she greeted him, sounding quite professional as she did so. Clearly, Shione had found a mentee in Caden's sister. "Shione is coordinating with the hospital for Celestine's arrival, so I'm answering her calls. What can I do for you?" Hey, cut it out, King Alarian!" Alarian's voice could be heard rising in the background.
"Get back here, little girl. I wish to speak to Valerius. He will not leave us in the dark, and where are you going?"
There was a sound of tapping feet and then some heavy breathing.
"You think hiding underneath the table will stop me?"
"Tilly, are you okay?" Caden asked, eyes flashing white for a moment. "I'm fine. The big green meanie can't fit under here, and I don't think—" "Hey! Using super strength is not fair!" Tilly snapped at the Green Dragon King. He just lifted up the entire dining room table.
"I will speak with Valerius. Now give me the phone, little girl,"
Alarian demanded. Valerius's jaw clenched.
"Tilly, put me on speaker, please."
"Right away," she said, and there was that hollow sound that signaled he was broadcasting.
"Alarian, are you in the habit of chasing 13-year-old girls?"
Valerius's voice was soft, almost gentle.
I was not. She should have. You are making me sound foolish," Alarian ground out. He's doing that all by himself, Caden muttered. You will never speak to Tilly or behave with her in that way again. Is that understood? Valerius asked. Caden's head lifted up and his eyes widened as he heard a tone in Valerius's voice that he had never heard before. He'd threatened, he'd ranted and raved, but this was different. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise of terrible, terrible things happening to Valerian if he didn't obey. There was a long silence, and then a low, I was not going to hurt her. Do you understand? Valerius pronounced each word as he repeated the question. Yes, Valerian hissed, but Valerius knew he meant it, even though the green dragon shifter sounded put out. But you need to tell us all what is going on. We are equals to you, Valerius. We are not your servants. That was debatable. Gather the other dragon shifters near, for I will not repeat this. Time is short. Valerius's voice was clipped. There were footsteps that neared and then stopped. He imagined all of the dragon shifters gathered around Tilly and the phone, as if they were worshipping an ancient occult object. We're all here, Valerius, Esme informed him. And here is where Caden and I are. We are certain that she only told you much of this already, but here is a simple summary. Landry made a call. Her cell phone's location was traced to a valley near my private retreat. Valerius informed them and grimaced as he admitted this much. Hadn't Caden said that Valerian would take off after the behemoth? He likely could find them with this small amount of information, but if he didn't give enough, there would be more objections and children chasing. I sent Celestine and the other falcons to investigate, believing if Caden and I went in our dragon forms, Landry might be harmed before we could get to her. Only Celestine returned, desperately injured. Both she and Landry said the same words, wall and death. There was a long silence as all of the other dragon shifters took this in. He wondered if their confusion and dread was as great as his. Likely not, because they had not seen the battle in the past and its horrible conclusion. We must come with you, Jahara said. You were going to investigate this place, yes? Yes, Valerius said, but it would not be wise for us all to go. You are the largest and strongest of us, Valerius, May spoke then, but not even you can stop the behemoth on your own. Actually, he could, and he had, or rather Raziel had, but the results had been terrible. I know, Valerius though agreed. He had no idea how to stop the behemoth without devastating a whole country or more. It's actually a lot more complicated than that, Caden broke in. Guys, you need to ask your dragon spirits to show you the battle with the behemoth in the spirit realm. Once you see that, you'll understand that Valerius and I aren't going there to fight the behemoth. We're just looking for Landry or any sign of where the behemoth is hidden. Eldaron is quite upset all of a sudden, Tez cried. It doesn't want to speak about the battle. Oh my. It must. All of us need to know what happened back then, because we cannot let it happen again, Valerius told them. Kayla piped in. Lana said we won, but we lost, Esme murmured. Oh dear, this looks to be bad news. Perhaps or perhaps not. We just cannot face the behemoth as we might have intended, Valerius said. Anwar spoke up then. Those words, wall and death. You recall the wall I found in my territory, the one that had the behemoth's likeness upon it, but then did not? Oh, man, could there be another wall here? Caden looked horrified. Valerius ground his teeth. The gray mountains were his. He and Raziel had literally lifted them up from the very earth themselves. To think that the behemoth may have polluted them was beyond aggravating. Even if you do not intend to fight the behemoth, you might have no choice if you walk into its lair, May stated. Let me send Adama to go for you, or at least to accompany you, if you will not let us help. I need you to be protecting the people of Reach, Valerius told them, the vision of the explosion running through his mind's eye again. If something goes wrong for Caden and I, you will know. But a stream of all the dragon shifters to the Grey Mountains will cause too much interest. Adama can cloak itself and become invisible, May said. Valerius blinked. Become invisible? Yes. May sounded pleased at his stunned intonation. Adama has many features, including ones that you intended it to use to spy on me, Valerius asked. There was a slight pause. Then May sighed. Well, of course, but I'll be taking Adama back with me now that Ilarion destroyed my other robots. Yes, you will, I insist, Valerius said, not caring that she was taking back her gift. He and Raziel would have just used it for target practice in any case. A robot spy is a bit conspicuous, May, Esme sniffed. I would have thought you'd have fashioned something more discreet. Sometimes more is more, May stated, with Valerius imagining her shrugging. And now, all of them are slag, Ilarion chuckled darkly. All the ones I brought with me, May responded sweetly. Ilarion went quiet. We have to go, guys, Caden said. Make your dragon spirits tell you, or better yet, show you the battle. As soon as we found out anything, we'll be back. Caden! It was Tilly. Hey, Till, you okay? Caden's voice softened. I'm fine. I'm here with all these dragons. Even the big green meanie would likely defend me now, Tilly said, and Valerius imagined her giving Ilarion the side-eye. I was not going to hurt you, little girl. You should have just given me the phone, Ilarion said. Shioni gave it to me. It's a sacred trust. Tilly sniffed at him. Anyways, Till? Caden prompted as he clearly wanted to take off and find Landry. Oh, what should I tell Mom and Dad? She asked. Caden drew in a deep breath. Nothing. Oh. Tilly's voice was small. Tilly, normally I wouldn't ask you to keep things from them, but if you're going to be my counselor, I'm a counselor in training, she cried gleefully. Caden smiled affectionately. Yeah, well, in that case, you have to understand that what you learn about dragon business stays dragon business, she finished for him. Caden nodded, even as he said out loud, yeah, can you do that? I can totally do that. Who do you think has kept your secrets all these years? She scoffed. Another affectionate smile crossed Caden's face. Yeah, I know, but some of these secrets are going to be ones that are scary. I know, but I get it. You're going to do this anyways, and getting Mom and Dad involved would just cause an argument, she said. It wouldn't change anything about what you're going to do. That's right. Caden nodded again. Okay. Well, good luck to both of you. Come back safe, Tilly said. Valerius pressed the end key. I hope you're enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. Many more adventures await our dragon shifter couple, but not until the next episode. If you're looking for another story full of hot heroes, romance, and magic set in an alternative world, check out the first book of my series, Cinders and Ashes. Cinders and Ashes is an elaborate gay retelling of Cinderella, but it's so much more than that. It's set in a world with forbidden magic, an heir made to work as a servant at his own estate, hidden heritage, enchanted wolves, and a king who wishes to marry for love. A link to book 1 is in the description below. He slipped the cell phone back into his pocket before shedding the garment entirely. He carefully folded it and laid it on the ground. They would return here when they had discovered what there was to discover. Let us take flight. Stay by me, Valerius commanded. Caden nodded. He dropped his robes too on top of Valerius's. They both started running forward and shifted in mid-leap. Somehow, the two dragons, despite being much bigger than them, did not crash into one another, but instead flapped upwards, wingtip to wingtip, with amazing grace, as if they had been flying together their whole lives. Raziel and Iolaire banked as they headed towards the last location of Landry's phone. Valerius had Raziel scan the ground below them, as well as keep its ears perked to catch sounds of any large predator. But all they heard was the whistle of the wind and the shush of snow on the peaks. Raziel and Iolaire were as one in the air. Both of them were each other's senses. There was seemingly no distance between them. Their hearts even seemed to beat as one. They were stronger, but one could not survive without the other. That was what Raziel had explained to him before, but now he understood it on a level he had not earlier. Losing Caden would do the same to him, he realized, and that was rather stunning. Everything okay? Caden asked. Just understanding something, Valerius said vaguely. He did not want Caden to be held back by his feelings. They both had to be willing to take chances. Caden was attuned to him that he might not do what he must because he feared how it would affect Valerius. Okay.
Caden didn't sound like he believed Valerius, but was willing to let it pass. What are we going to do if we find the behemoth making snow angels? Valerius snorted at the image. We retreat. Caden snorted this time. You and Raziel have never retreated in your lives. That was true. What course would you have us take? Valerius asked, feeling frustration rising within him. Raziel and I could rip its head off again, but then everybody would be dead, maybe even us, Caden finished. Yeah, I get that. I mean, the spirits didn't die after the explosion, but we likely would. And definitely everyone in Reach would, and... Okay, so not an option. No, it is not, which is why the blasted thing is here, Valerius growled. It knows that of everyone I would be unwilling to sacrifice, the people in my own territory would be at the top of my list. You wouldn't kill anybody's people, Caden said loyally. That's not necessarily true, Caden, Valerius answered after a moment. Destroying the behemoth would be worth many sacrifices. Even if half of what we think about this creature is true, losing some to protect the many may be the only way. He felt Caden's mental aversion to this idea. The kind-hearted white dragon shifter wanted above all to find a solution that would spare everyone. But solutions like that were rarer than unicorn shifters. What if Iolaire and I used our gift to try and shift the behemoth? Caden suggested, deciding that arguing this point with Valerius likely wouldn't get anywhere. Caden felt his conviction was as great as Valerius's own. That might be a thing to try, Valerius answered slowly. On the one hand, he wanted to have a thorough plan before they tried to use Caden and Iolaire's special gift. He wanted to have that in his back pocket, and yet if it worked and the behemoth was shifted into a human form or a bunch of humans, they would be easy to deal with, game over, done and done. The behemoth is incredibly strong, Valerius reminded Caden, probably unnecessarily. You were not able to shift me. That's because we weren't trying, Caden informed him. What? You heard me, my king, Caden chuckled. We could have had you shifting and flapping your tiny human arms as you tried to stay aloft. I think not. Valerius was both amused and wary of this suggestion. We'll have to try it sometime, Caden teased. Oh, is that the valley? It was. Ahead of them, just over a final spine of rock, was the valley where Landry's cell phone had pinged. Valerius found himself holding his breath as he strained to see or hear anything of the behemoth ahead of them. I don't see anything, or anybody, Caden cried, his distress rolling over their bond. Evidently, he still had held out hope that whatever had harmed Celestine and likely killed the other Falcon shifters had miraculously left Landry alive and unharmed. But however unlikely that hope had been, Valerius was disturbed that he saw nothing but ice and snow. Go lower, Raziel, he instructed his dragon spirit. We need to look for tracks. The black dragon spirit complied, and Iolaire followed along as they circled lower and lower. The snow was displaced. He saw footprints and the tracks of what could have been snowmobiles, all leading along the center of the valley's narrow floor. There, Caden cried. Do you see it? At first, Valerius did not see it. Then he realized that Caden had already followed the tracks to their conclusion. There was a cave at the end of the valley where two slices of rock had grown together at the top, but led a mouth of darkness between them at the bottom. All the tracks led in there. That is too small for the behemoth, Valerius remarked. The opening was large, but there was no way Iolaire could fit inside, let alone Raziel or the behemoth. Yeah, we'll have to shift and go inside in human form, Caden said, sounding both eager and a little trepidatious. I do not know if this is at all wise, Valerius said. You're the one that reminds me all of the time that our human skin is as tough as dragon hide, remember? Caden pointed out. Besides, we can't turn back now without finding out what's inside there. Caden had a point. The other Falcon shifters could be alive in there, if injured. Landry, too, could be a prisoner inside. Perhaps they could find a frost-bitten Jasper Hawes as well. They did have to go inside. Without further discussion, the two of them both shifted about 30 feet up in the air and dropped effortlessly into a superhero pose before rising up. The cave entrance now looked far larger than it had before. It yawned menacingly before them. A strange scent, rather like ozone, filled the air. The hair on the back of Valerius's neck and arms was standing up. I do not like this place, Raziel grumbled and put a shielding wing around Iolaire. Neither do I, Valerius agreed with the black dragon spirit. Caden surprised him, as Caden often did, by crouching low and moving without hesitation towards the cave's entrance. Caden was brave, but he knew the young man was afraid of this place. He dreaded what he would find inside. There were 2 large boulders that were just outside the cavern. Caden crouched down behind them, and Valerius did the same at his side. "I don't hear anything or anyone, do you?" Caden asked. "No, the cave feels empty," Valerius agreed. "We should be able to hear heartbeats if anyone was nearby, but I hear nothing but the wind and the snow and the fall of dank water." "That sounds almost poetic, Valerius." Caden smiled at him. It was a brief smile, but he treasured it. "Eye of hidden depths." Valerius flashed him a grin. "Let's go inside." The 2 of them crept around the boulders and entered the cave's mouth. Within a few steps, the light from the outside failed to illuminate any deeper. The change from light to dark was almost blinding. The 2 of them could see nothing as their eyes adjusted, but Valerius's hearing and scent became extra keen. But still, he heard nothing. "We are alone," Valerius said. "That doesn't make sense." Caden blinked rapidly. "Whatever hurt Celestine must be here. Or it has moved on, knowing we would come," Valerius pointed out. "We would have seen it, wouldn't we? I mean, if it were the behemoth," Caden said. "Yes, one would think," Valerius answered cautiously. "Let's keep moving." The ground of the cave was remarkably smooth. Valerius saw that it had been leveled and cleared of large rocks. The reason why became obvious as they turned a corner and found snowmobiles with trailers behind them. "Someone was camping up here, or planned to for a long time," Caden said as he studied all the sleeping bags, freeze-dried food, cans of beef stew, and other materials one would need to stay out in the wilderness for some time. "They were freaking arrogant to do this. Valinor isn't that far away." "Yes, but I had not noticed them before," Valerius stated. "And I would not have come out here for some time, other than this spur-of-the-moment decision with the other dragon shifters in town." "I guess you're right," Caden admitted. They picked their way through the snowmobiles and stopped. Up ahead, the cave opened up into a cavern. They could see the glow from several electric lanterns sitting beside several dozen tents. There were tables pushed together where laptops and tablets were spread out, letting out a soft blue glow. There were also campfires flickering. "There are no people here," Caden said as he stared at the campsite. "Where did they go?" Valerius's gaze had swept to the wall, a strangely flat wall for a cave. It looked more like the wall of an ancient building instead of something one would see in nature. Though it wasn't completely smooth, it was. "Valerius!" Caden called out as Valerius had started striding towards the wall without any attempt at hiding. But he was sure that he didn't have to. He knew where all the people had gone, and he now knew why he had never seen the behemoth flying in his territory, or any territory. It didn't need to fly to go from place to place. "Oh no, no!" Caden gasped out as he saw what was causing the wall to not be smooth. Sticking out of it were hands and wings and people's screaming faces. They were all reaching back into the cave as if they were being sucked inside the wall. They were all stone. All stone. All caught in a frozen moment that Valerius assumed was their deaths. Caden was about to reach for one of those hands in particular. Valerius caught his wrist and drew him back. "But Valerius, that's Landry," Caden gasped. Valerius held Caden close. "I know. I'm so sorry, Caden. I'm so sorry." I hope you're enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. Dragon's Reign is free for you to enjoy, but not free for us to make. There is a whole team working with me for audio editing, artwork, graphic design, and custom music. Most YouTube channels and podcasts have sponsors and take ads, but because of the kind of content we make, we can't run ads or get sponsors. Instead, we have other ways you can support me and the team behind this gay romance audiobook. One easy way is to buy or borrow my books from Amazon. They are all gay romance set in alternative worlds with vampires, shifters, and other magical beings. You may not know that even if you borrow books with your Kindle Unlimited subscription at Amazon, they are free for you, but they still earn us money. The books are published under the name Ex Aritare, which actually means Wraith in Romance. Romanian. And if you love audiobooks, you can get professionally narrated versions of every one of my books on audible.com. The link to my author page is in the description below, as well as to the first book of the series I think you'll really like. Thank you so much for your support. People like you enable me and the team to keep writing these stories of gay romance, magic, monsters, and true love, and producing this very fun podcast for everyone. Thank you.